Hello. Very excited today to look at a book that has been really influential for me as a woodcutter and as a comic book maker, actually. This is the sweet spot for me. This is where woodcutting and comic books intersect. This is an early graphic novel or proto graphic novel, depending on how you want to define it, done in 1925 by Belgian expressionist Frans Masereel. This was published in Germany in between the two world wars during the Weimar period. In the early 20th century, the first half of the 20th century, there were several wordless woodcut graphic novels, mostly dealing with like the labor struggle or issues of the lower classes. I'll show a couple of them at the end of the video. If you watch through or click the timestamp and see those. But for now, I'm going to look at this. This was published by Dover, and I'll put a QR code up on the screen if you want to purchase it. Well worth it, and worth it to support Dover. Quietly one of the best publishers out there. I feel like most of my favorite art books come from them. So I think all these woodcuts are printed here actual size. Correct me in the comments, please, if that's not the case, but I do believe these are all actual size. And we start off with this view like of the city, and this is the most placid kind of serene thing we're gonna get as we go through. And I kind of like how it starts sort of with a voyage into the city. Right off the bat, his smoke. This was really influential to me early on. I was doing some woodcuts with like smoke clouds and stuff, and I found his work, and this really influenced how I did things. Also love his compositions. Here we have like already you're seeing the city encroaching on everything, and so we have these like walls or this these borders, and then just this dense strip of humanity in here. One thing I love about Masereel that we'll see throughout is all the figures kind of have their own thing going on. Either they're individuals doing individual things, or they are like this wild mass, and using just black with a little bit of white cut in there can indicate just a huge crowd of people. I think it's really wonderful. And we just see like it's so dense, it's so packed in. We very rarely see the sky because the city just goes up to the top of the composition, and we have like these scenes of urban life, and like this figure framed here again, and even having this black triangle here in the composition, this hat right on the edge. A lot of the compositions have things touching the edges. There's not a lot of open kind of white space going off the edge of the composition. Like here we can see the sky just barely. Here we can see mostly just smoke. It's interesting in a time when you can see this industrialization, this quick growth. It looks almost haphazard. I also notice that his perspective, like his perspective on a lot of these buildings is kind of wonky, and yet it's clear that he knows what he's doing. Like he knows how perspective works. And so I wonder if the wonkiness has to do with making like kind of an unsettling, unstable feeling, which would fit with the era. Just this beautiful, beautiful scenes, the kind of technology, the highs and the lows of the technology mixed in. His characters are great, and like it's just that the use of black and white to depict such hectic things, right? The very simple language uh, of just black or just white. Either you carve it out or you don't. It's like a binary language, like a one or a zero. And from that very simple language, you can get all this depth, all this complexity. To me, that's the thing about black and white woodcut that first resonated with me and still does. I love this one here. It looks like the wing of an airplane dropping pamphlets, and he gets these great rhythms all throughout these as well. So there's kind of a movement within each one. Very few of these are static. Even this view of people sitting in a room, of like again, everybody's doing their own thing differently. We have a little bit of wonky perspective maybe on some of this stuff, but all the details of these posters on the wall. It really feels like a lived-in world. I guess before the phrase world building was a thing, um, he was doing it. I love here. There's again, you get this framing of the kind of action here, and I really like this pickpocket. And I wonder if we're meant to kind of come through here, look at this, but we come down, we have this one figure just in white, surrounded by all these figures in black, and I wonder if the angle on the ladder and then that figure in white is supposed to draw our attention. This pickpocket here. Also, like how the hat's kind of just kind of resting on top of the head. It's a nice touch. But these crowds, it's it's really really astonishing what he's able to do, and if this is indeed actual size, even more so. So you have a lot of pictures of vice or money, how that plays in. Again, more framing, really good use of white. And this crowd, just I learned so much about how to draw a crowd from looking at these woodcuts. Just more detail, of course, in the foreground, but you only need to establish a few figures, and then kind of every layer back, they get a little bit simpler, a little bit simpler. And once you've done that, you can just show blobs, and it totally reads as a crowd. That was kind of a revelation when I was starting out. Very interesting. We have this. This is kind of a serene, sort of very personal thing, but I'm really interested in how he's got it cut here. Like so, we have a frame of the figure, and then a frame of the mourners, and this kind of placid, very vertical kind of setup, and then the next page, just these diagonals, the smoke going everywhere, back outside, back on the street, and a lot of just great storytelling. I'm also I'm pretty sure that this is the way that it was arranged originally as well, with the facing pages. But on the back here, it says that this was the unabridged reproduction of the original, the published in 1925. So I'm guessing because it's unabridged that the pagination is the same. And so like this in particular, we have this church, and then this this statue of a figure, and these kind of different ideas of worship, and the composition being fairly similar for these. And we have the backdrop of the church here with like the heavens, and then we have the backdrop of this figure. I don't know if it's an industrialist maybe, or some kind of a political figure, and there's no heavens behind him. There's the sort of urbanized heavens, right? The paradise of the city. So I'm guessing that this was an intentional sort of juxtaposition. Very interesting. This one here. There's very few that use this much white space, and so again, it's kind of serene, placid moment. And it's interesting that kind of his Prince of Death, uh, in an interior space, are the ones that are the placid ones. Because even this wedding, even though the composition is fairly vertical, it still feels like there's a lot of movement going on. And I also like here how we still get the city kind of out the window, the main character in the story, and we can see the smokestacks and all of that. I love these machines. This really to me, this speaks of the era. The first time I saw this, I went and I tried to find what these things were. I did eventually find them. I've forgotten because it's been maybe 20 years, but I've definitely drawn these a few times from like old, I don't know, Soviet photo reference or whatever. So we have the sciences kind of playing a part here of the era. Love his water. It's very simple. It's got a good movement to it. Again, we have just a hint of the sky here. Same thing here. Here again, we see every figure kind of doing their own thing. There's little stories happening all throughout, and the beautiful ornamentation as well. And it's interesting too. He shows these I would guess older houses compared to the larger buildings, maybe the newer ones, the more mass-produced ones, and the ornamentation versus the monotony. These ones. So anyway, that is The City by Frans Masereel. I'm not going to go through the whole book because I think I think this is something that if you're interested in this, you know, it's maybe $8 on the Dover website. So do get it. It'll be well worth it. I'm just so excited looking at this. Now I want to go make some woodcuts. But before I do that, I want to show a couple of other books, and in future videos I might go through these other ones. These also have to do with wordless woodcut graphic novels. This first one here, it comes out and calls them graphic novels right on the cover. This is an excellent book. It's Graphic Witness. This was compiled by George A. Walker, who I think is a professor in Canada. And the new edition actually has 5 wordless graphic novels. They added one by Eric Glass, so I need to get my hand on the on the new edition. But these are wonderful. And like I was already familiar, of course, Frans Masereel. There's another one of his stories in here. Lynd is probably the most famous woodcutter from this kind of genre. But I was really pleasantly surprised to discover Giacomo Patri when I got this book. His work, his visual style is the one that kind of speaks to me the most. So there's 4 in here. And of course, Lynn Ward's stories are all available in multiple formats, but this one is one I have. This is God's Man. I think this is his most famous one. This is another one of kind of alienation, capitalism. You know, he's going to the city, and I think this came out the week of the stock market crash, if I'm not mistaken. So released the week of the 1929 stock market crash. Yeah, and so this was his first of, it says 6 wordless woodcut graphic novels, which you can get in this brick. This was I was gifted this by a good friend of mine, edited by Art Spiegelman. So you know it's good, and it has 6 different, all 6 of Lynn Ward's graphic novels. And I should say that the Graphic Witness book, and also I believe this one has some front matter, some writing about these. So for more information. And finally, although it's embarrassing to show these alongside those, I have 2 woodcut graphic novels of my own. And these ones are not wordless, however, but these were very much inspired by what you've just seen, dealing with some of the same issues. And when I realized that I could combine my love of comic books with my love of woodcuts, how could I resist? So once you're done with all the other ones, if you still have a hankering for some woodcut graphic novels, get a hold of these as well. Anyway, that is enough of my blabbing. That's The City by Frans Masereel. Thank you for watching, and happy reading.